Hey anyone, this is Victoria Harrington and this is Visually Happening. So this week's segment is Visually Victoria, where I just sit and talk about things that are on my mind, and this week I wanted to talk about grandfathers. So for those of you out there who still have your grandfathers, you guys are very extremely lucky people. And I just wanted to talk about my grandfathers from what I've heard about them and just reflect it off on you guys. So I want to start with my mother's father. His name is Paulino De Leon. He was born and raised in Calamba, Philippines, and he was a family guy. Not so much Peter Griffin, but he was a family guy. And when my mom was 5, him and my grandmother, my mama, moved themselves to Perth Amboy, New Jersey. Now, normally Asian immigrants would migrate to California, but they decided to go to Perth Amboy, which is right next to Staten Island. And they were only supposed to be gone for 2 years, but they ended up being gone for 5 because there's a dictator at the time in the Philippines that made it impossible for them to come home. So they had to work every other law to be able to come back to the Philippines to get my mom and my aunt. And at that point, my mom was 11 by the time they came to the States. So my Lolo, he was a firefighter in the Philippines, but when he came to the States, he actually failed the firefighter test in Perth Amboy because he was hard of hearing in his left ear. So even though he couldn't work the job that he was normally trained to, he didn't give up, and he worked for Shell gas station instead. He was one of the people that measured the oil in the water tanks, and was able to live doing that. Apparently one day, my mom was 18, and she was living in Staten Island at the time, going to college in Queens. And my aunt, my bop, which I'll explain in a different video, my aunt was 15, she was a freshman in high school. And apparently one day he was at the gym, and he got a heart attack at the gym. And my mom was in Staten Island when she heard about what happened. My grandmother worked at the hospital that was 2 blocks down from their house in Perth Amboy. And she got the news that her husband was coming. And so he was admitted December 9th. And, luckily my mom was able to come home and see him. My aunt and my grandmother were at the hospital already. And a couple of days later, he passed away. And I know it takes a huge toll on my mom. My mother's very sensitive about anything father-daughter on TV, and rightfully so. But I heard so many wonderful things about him my whole life. I heard that he was such a sucker for my mom and my aunt. He would sneak toys whenever he could. And I think he would have loved me, my brother, my cousins, Sarah and Chris. And, that one, it's hard to think about him because I have absolutely no point of reference from my own brain. All I have are stories and pictures, not even videos. I have no doubt that he would have loved all of us. It'd be nice to have a frame of reference of that love. But either way, I think of you very fondly. And then I guess now it's my father's father, who I'm named after, Victor Harrington. He died January of 1996, and I just turned 4 at that point. And my brother was a couple of months old. I guess at that point he was 8 months old. But my grandfather died of Alzheimer's, and apparently around my 1st or 2nd birthday was when he started to go. And there's a couple of pictures of him staring at me in the delivery room. My parents were between naming me Jessica or Vanessa, and they went with Victoria when they saw my grandfather just staring at me for hours. And I guess that one really hits me because I did get to meet him. But there was no way of me getting to know him. And I think that's what really, really bites, is that, yeah, he was alive, but he wasn't cognitive. Forgetting about me by the time he had to go to the hospital. He forgot who my dad was. He forgot who my aunts were. He forgot who my Nana was, his wife. He even had a girlfriend in the hospital. Apparently her name was Victoria. And there's this one home video where he's just staring at me, and I'm staring back at him. This is, I think, was Christmas or New Year's of 91 or New Year's of 92. And so I'm only a couple of months, but I am not breaking eye contact with him. And in a way, I'd like to think that I knew who he was. And apparently he would have showered me with affection. He wouldn't have spoiled me with material things. He would have hugged me all the time. He would have talked to me. And I don't know. I think we really could have gotten along from the videos and from the stories I've heard. Thankfully I have my papa on video. Video cameras weren't around when my Lola was alive. And I know that's something that really, really kills my mom. But I guess my point in talking about this is if you still have a grandfather, you are so incredibly lucky. You have an older, wiser version of your parent who will always look at you like you are the world. And I can't express how lucky you are. Like, whenever I've gone to like a friend's family function, if I find a grandfather, I don't leave his side the whole night. Because to me, talking to a grandfather figure or someone else's grandfather could simulate my own conversation with my own grandfathers, one or the other or both. So I guess my point is love your grandparents, and if you have your grandfathers, love them. I have my own stories about my grandmothers who thankfully I got to know before they passed. I'll save that for another time. And that's really it. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any stories about your grandfathers or grandparents, grandmothers, anything that you would like to share, please leave them at the comment section below. I would love nothing more than to hear about it. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Again, thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day if you can. And see you guys next week. Bye.
You want to say anything to her, Daddy?
I already did.
Like what?
I just asked her passes.
I'm gonna say hello to baby time.
She and I have something.
What?
We like each other.
You have your name in common.
That's right.
I've always came in and all.
Or something like that.